Thank you. Well, let me thank all of you for coming out this evening. It's a beautiful turnout. And let me thank Purple Frank for the music. Let me thank Brendan McDonough for his remarks, and let me thank Zoe Swinton for her introduction. Thank you guys very much. Okay, we got a revolution to make. You ready to do it? All right, where we are right now is I'm here to ask for your support to help me win the Iowa caucus. I'm here to ask for your support to help me win the Democratic nomination. And most importantly, I'm here to ask for your support to defeat the most dangerous president in modern American history. But I'm asking for more than that. I'm asking for your help the day after we're inaugurated to help transform our economy and our government so that it works for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, I don't want to make you all very nervous, but there is an enormous responsibility resting on the shoulders of your generation. And that is, the good news is that your generation is the most progressive younger generation in the history of this country. Thank you. You are anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-homophobia. You are anti-religious bigotry. That's the good news. The bad news is your generation does not get out and vote to the level it should. The truth is that if younger people in this country voted at the same level as people 65 and older, we could transform this country. Please do it. So I'm here tonight to say to you that when your friends tell you they moan and groan about the high cost of college or student debt or racism or sexism, homophobia, whatever it may be, climate change, tell them to stop complaining. Tell them to get involved in the political process. Now, when we talk about an agenda that works for all people, let me tell you briefly what we're talking about. What we are saying is that in America, we're going to end the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that exists. This is America. 3 people should not own more wealth than the bottom half of this country. This is America. Billionaires should not be able to buy elections by contributing hundreds of millions of dollars to their candidates. So what this campaign is about is ending Citizens United, overturning that disastrous decision, ending voter suppression in this country, and moving toward public funding of campaigns. This campaign is about, I want to tell you the progress that we've made in recent years. 4 years ago, came here to Iowa and I said, you know what, if you work 40 hours a week, you shouldn't be living in poverty. You got to raise that minimum wage from $7.25, a starvation wage, to $15 an hour, a living wage. 4 years ago, they said that was a wild and crazy idea. 4 years have come and gone. 7 states now pass $15 an hour minimum wage. The U.S. House of Representatives have passed $15 an hour minimum wage. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Mitch McConnell brings up my legislation on the floor of the Senate. And when we talk about wages, we're talking about equal pay for equal work. Women in America should not be making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. Equal pay for equal work. And we're talking about making it easier for workers to join a union, not harder. And when we talk about a progressive agenda, we are talking about health care as a human right, not a privilege. We're talking about ending the insanity of spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country, while at the same time 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. 30,000 Americans die each year because they don't get to the doctor on time. 500,000 people go bankrupt because of medical bills. This is an outrage. The function of health care is to provide quality care to all, not to make $100 billion in profits for the healthcare industry. And not only are we going to take on the healthcare industry, we're taking on the drug companies as well. Last month, I made a trip to Canada with a bunch of folks who are dealing with diabetes. They bought insulin in Canada for 1/10 the price we pay in the United States. So we're saying tonight to the drug companies, we're going to end your greed and your corruption. We're going to lower the cost of drugs in America. And under Medicare for All, nobody pays more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. And when we talk about a progressive agenda that works for working families, we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. It is totally absurd that hundreds of thousands of bright young people in America today do not go to college, do not go to technical schools because they come from low-income or working-class families. It is equally insane that 45 million Americans are struggling with student debt today. And that is why we are going to cancel all student debt in America. Now, the purpose of our campaign is to try to get the American people to think big, not small. Nelson Mandela said something that was very profound. He said, "Everything is impossible until it happens." Everything is impossible until it happens. In other words, when the people stand up and demand change, it happens. And that's what this campaign is about. It is telling Wall Street and the insurance companies and the drug companies and the fossil fuel industry and the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex, they cannot have it all. That's what thinking big is about. It is not a radical idea to talk about making public colleges and universities tuition free. And in fact, it is beginning to happen all over the country, in New York State, in California, in Tennessee, in Oregon, in Chicago, in Detroit. Communities and states are moving in that direction. The question is not whether we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. The question is how soon we are going to do it. And with your support, we're going to do it damn soon. Now, my critics say, Bernie, you want to make public colleges and universities tuition free. You want to cancel all student debt. That's an expensive proposition. And they're right, it is. It will cost us $2.2 trillion over a 10-year period. But I will tell you this, if we could bail out the crooks on Wall Street 11 years ago, if we could give well over $1 trillion in tax breaks under Trump to the top 1% and large profitable corporations, we can damn well cancel all student debt in this country. And the way we are going to pay for that is through a very modest tax on Wall Street speculation. We bailed them out. Now it's time for them to help the working families of this country. And let me say another word about an issue I know that is very much on your minds, and that is the crisis, the global crisis of climate change. Now, we got a president who thinks that we have a president who thinks that climate change is a hoax. Well, I think Donald Trump is a hoax. And I think that we should have a president who actually listens to science. And what science tells us is climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, it is already causing devastating harm throughout our country and the world. And what is even more frightening is the scientists are telling us that if we do not get our act together now and in a very aggressive way, the changes that are coming will be irreparable, unable to be improved upon. The damage will be permanent. And that is why I am very proud to tell you that I have introduced the most comprehensive climate change legislation ever introduced by any candidate running for anything. We have a moral responsibility to make certain that the planet we leave our children and future generations is a planet that is healthy and is habitable. Now, the sad truth is, I wish I could tell you otherwise, is that this is not just an American issue. This is obviously a global issue that impacts every country on earth. As President of the United States, I will do everything that I can to help lead the world and to tell the world that maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.5 trillion every single year on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, maybe we should pool that money and use it to combat our common enemy, which is climate change. And when we talk about transforming our energy system, it means we have got to take on the fossil fuel industry and tell them as loudly and forcefully as we can that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of our planet. And when we talk about issues facing the American people, let me be as clear, and I know that I am in Iowa, but let me say to the Iowa State Governor and the Iowa State government, I happen to believe that it should not be politicians controlling the bodies of women. I think that a woman's right to control her own body is a constitutional right. And I promise you now that I will never nominate anybody to the U.S. Supreme Court who does not 100% believe and support Roe v. Wade. And there's another issue that I know that is painfully on many of our minds, and that is the kinds of mass shootings that we have recently seen in Texas, in El Paso, in Dayton, and over the years in so many communities and schools, right? And it's a horrific issue that I almost don't like to talk about because the images that it conjures up are so horrific that it is just really unpleasant. And it bothers me so much that kids all over this country are going to school in fear. Parents are sending their kids off to school in fear. So here is my promise to you. I will not be intimidated by the NRA. We will pass gun safety legislation, which greatly expands background checks, which does away with the so-called gun show loophole, which ends the so-called straw man provision that allows people to legally buy guns and then sell them to criminal elements, and that also will finally put an end to the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. And that's not all. I mean, there's much more that has to be done, but that is an issue that we have got to address. Last point that I want to make is that the establishment will tell you that real change is impossible. They will tell you in 100 different ways to think small, not big. But in the bottom of my heart, I remember what Nelson Mandela said. And he said, everything is impossible until it happens. Let me repeat that again. Everything is impossible until it happens. And that means that when we stand up and we say, you know what, healthcare is a human right, and millions of people stand up and take on the insurance companies and drug companies, we will accomplish that reality. And when millions of young people stand up and say, you know what, it is not fair for me to go $50,000 or $100,000 in debt for what? What did I do? Wanted to get a higher education. Ain't right. We're going to cancel student debt and make public colleges and universities tuition free. We could do that. And it is not an impossible dream to understand that the United States of America, the wealthiest, the most powerful country on earth, can have a president who does not deny the reality of climate change, but is leading the entire world to transform our energy system so we save the planet. And it is not an impossible dream to say that instead of demonizing immigrants in this country, we pass comprehensive immigration reform. And that we have a border policy, a humane border policy, which does not allow government agents to snatch babies from the arms of their mothers. And it is not impossible to know that on my first day as president, we will reestablish the legal rights of the 1.8 million young people in the DACA program. And it is not impossible to dream that we will end the incredibly broken and racist criminal justice system which we now live under. This is America. We should not have more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American than any other country on earth. We are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education, not more jails and incarceration. Right now in America, 400,000 people are behind bars. You know why they're behind bars tonight? Because they're too poor to afford cash bail. We're going to eliminate cash bail. We're going to end the so-called war on drugs. We're going to decriminalize marijuana and move to the expungement of those people. So what this campaign is about, it's not just winning here in Iowa, it's not just winning the nomination, it is not just defeating Trump. It is more than that. The message of our campaign is us, not me. And what that means are two very, very profound points. Number one, unlike Trump and his friends who think the function of human life is to lie, cheat, and steal and make billions of dollars, we understand that the function of being a human being is to care and love our fellow human beings. And the second point is a strong political point that you won't see discussed on TV, here on the radio, read in the papers. And that is, no president of the United States, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. We can't bring about the change this country needs just by having a good president. We need a mass movement of millions of people who are prepared to stand up and fight for justice. This is a justice campaign. Economic justice, racial justice, social justice, environmental justice. So the day after we are inaugurated, I'm going to need your help again. I need you to help me stand up to the greed of Wall Street. You're prepared to do that? Prepared to stand up to the greed of the insurance companies. Prepared to stand up to the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. Prepared to tell the fossil fuel industry that we will not allow them to destroy the planet. Prepared to stand up to the military-industrial complex and the prison-industrial complex, because we're going to end private prisons and detention centers in this country. Prepared to stand up to the 1%, because we are going to tell them that not only are we going to rescind Trump's tax breaks, they're going to start paying their fair share of taxes. So, brothers and sisters, here in Iowa, you have an enormous responsibility, and I know the people of Iowa take that responsibility seriously. You are the first state in this country to cast ballots in the presidential primary. So I am here today to ask for your support here in Iowa. I think we got a great shot to win here in Iowa, and with your support, we will win here in Iowa. And I think we're looking good in many of the early states. We're looking good in California. And if we win the early states in California or a few other states, we're on our way to defeat a president who is a racist, who is a sexist, who is a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot. Now, I want to say something to people of Iowa. I am more than aware Iowa voted for Trump. I got that. But I happen to believe that many of the people in Iowa, no matter what their point of view is, understand that the President of the United States should not be a pathological liar. You know, we can disagree on issues. We can disagree on issues, but the President of the United States cannot be a pathological liar. He cannot be somebody who is trying to divide this country up. So I believe that if we stand up to Trump and tell him he's not going to divide us up, that we are going to come together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, immigrants, native born. When we stand together and create a movement that tells the 1% and the large profitable corporations that we are sick and tired of their corruption and their greed, that we are prepared to roll up our sleeves and create the kind of nation that you and I know we can become. We've got a lot of work in front of us. Let's go out and do it. Thank you all very much.